All right, let's talk about 1941's Pnny Srnd, direct, directed by George Stevens, starring Cary Grant and Irene Dunne. This is a melodrama, told in flashbacks as Irene Dunne's character, who is whose name is Julie. Um, looks back on her life with her husband Roger, played by Cary Grant, and the it's a marriage that seems to be failing. There seems to have been a child in their life, but is no more. You see an abandoned doll in the background in one scene. She plays records, and each record unspools yet another memory of their life. This is a weaponized weepy, made by Hollywood. This is obviously really well made. George Stevens is quite the director and is acted the hell out of by Cary Grant and Irene Dunne. Apparently, Cary Grant got an Academy Award nomination for that. I don't know if I would put it at that level. There's a certain frustration watching a movie like this where it is sad and melancholy, where you think, oh, Cary Grant and Irene Dunne should be trading snappy dialogue. They're both kind of, I think, best known for now doing kind of screwball comedies. At least in my mind, they are. So this is a downer picture where there's a little kid is just marked for death, and they freaking they freaking milk it for everything they've got. Irene Dunne ends up not being able to have a child. They adopt a child, but they don't have enough money, and the judge is going to take it away. But oh, it's fine. And there's a Christmas pageant where the little moppet has to go up on a high thing, and the trips, and oh, slides back down fine. And it's like, oh, but next year I'll get to be an angel. Yeah, kid, next year you're gonna get to be an angel, because what happens in told, it's strange kind of like, this is the interesting thing of like kind of restraint. Told in a letter, we find out that she has passed, that little kid, the moppet, has passed away. So either the writers or the director kind of went, okay, we're not going to go full bore on that. We're going to make it sad, and it's all about the repercussions and watching Cary Grant and Irene Dunne, act the hell out of those repercussions, and they do that. And there is a Miss Oliver, the head of the orphanage, who gets them their first child, and Cary Grant's like, oh, but we wanted a boy. But then as soon as he meets the little girl, he's like, oh, this is, I love her, and she's a daddy's little girl, and all this. And he is so devastated by her death that he withdraws and is punishing himself, but is punishing Irene Dunne, and it's going to destroy their marriage. And Irene Dunne tells Miss Oliver about this via the letter, and Miss Oliver is crying, and we're crying, and he's about to leave, and the phone rings, and it's Miss Oliver saying, it's the strangest thing. I found there's this little 2-year-old boy here who matches exactly what you had asked for the first time. And off the record, it was, and she said this the first time, it was, there's some other parents I was supposed to show it to first, but I think maybe you should come down and see. And they hear this, and they're like, the heart's going in. It's like, fuck you, Trina, which is the name of the little girl who died. And like, yes, we'll be right down. And they're going to live happily ever after. And it's just like, oh, you fuckers. There is like, you can't help, it's well crafted, but you're fuckers. You're just using all the kind of the stuff. There is a scene here where they've got to take a little Trina down to the judge to plead the case, and they just show their feet, and by their feet, through a banister, as in like jail cell, this banister of of their apartment, where there's this little bunny sitting there, and it's kind of stuffed bunny, and it's peeking around the thing, and it's like, as all this is playing out, and and at the very end when they're walking away, it's like, oh, and they grab the bunny and they give the bunny to the little girl, just like, oh, that is the perfect scene of just a little bunny peering cutely around the thing. That is this movie to a T. It was, I found it a slog to get through. I just watched it in little chunks and was like, oh God, we're going back to this and we're going back to this. So maybe there's a bit of repetition there. It's hard to tell since I broke it up into so many chunks, but it is weepy, well made, calculated, and it does get you. It got me a little bit at the end, and it's like, fuck you, movie. It's kind of one of those movies. It's like, fuck you, you're making me cry. I mean, I guess it's not. It's so well done. It uses music throughout, which was, I think, a novelty at the time. Of like, oh, we're going to use all these kind of popular songs. Kind of, I think some critics say, oh, cheap songs can actually be quite affecting, and attaching them to things. You belong to me. It's like, I think that's Pnny Serenade. I think comes from that, but oh God, you look at this. You look at the cover that they have here for it. The Irene Dunn. It's like they're cracking champagne because yes, the beginning there is a thing of them at New Year's Eve, and it's like there's the love we all dreamed of finding. So it's like it's romantic, but it's like no, this is a movie that's here to carve out your heart, and terrible. It's not a romantic comedy. It is a melodramatic, weepy. Yeah. So I respect it. I don't love it. And fuck you for making me cry, movie. And yes, Blua Bondi as Miss Oliver is really good, and Edgar Buchanan. It also does as he is the friend. What's his name? He's got one of those Applejack Carney as their as Roger's kind of right hand man at the newspaper is fine. They do have a kind of a notable scene at the beginning where they're in Japan and there's a horrible earthquake, which is what injures Irene Dunn, and she can never have children again of her own. Which is like impressively staged. Is like, holy shit, this is really everything crashing down, earthquake, which is pretty impressive for the time. I mean, it's all just one set, but it's just like everything comes down, so that is impressive. All right, that is Pnny Serenade. I'll probably have another Cary Grant movie coming up next with Myrna Loy in their dream home. All right, more videos later.